Good afternoon, folks. Thanks for joining us. We're going to give it a minute or two just to let the waiting room clear out, and then we'll get started. Okay, I think looks like it's slowing down. So why don't we go ahead and get started? Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for joining us. My name is Kathy Boyce. Welcome back to the third stakeholder meeting for the New Mexico Building Decarbonization Roadmap. We're excited to see everybody today, and we'll welcome any newcomers here in just a minute. As you know, my name is Kathy Boyce. I'm the director of the Interior West at GridWorks, and I'm joined today by my colleagues Margie Tatro and Deb Shields. You'll be hearing from them at different points during the afternoon, and the three of us are on deck to help you if you have technology problems, so reach out to any of the three of us by chat if you need it. So on screen, we're going to get started with our slides here. Deb, if you could move on to the second slide. Just to refresh on our Zoom meeting norms, we do ask that you please mute your mic when you're not talking. This is a big group, so appreciate trying to limit background noise to the extent we're able. Please raise your hand when you wish to speak, or you can use the chat. We'll be monitoring that as we go. We do ask that you please turn on your camera when you're talking. We had a fabulous in-person meeting at our first event, and helps for folks to connect names to faces when you're on screen. We have one presentation today. Well, that's ongoing, and we ask that you please hold your questions until the Q&A, and we'll have a few minutes at the end there for questions. Please do be respectful in your comments, share your ideas, and also recognize we are a big group, so please be succinct and leave some time for others. And you may have noticed we are recording. This is for our internal note-taking purposes only, so we just for our record keeping. And then if we want to roll on to the next slide, please. Just to recap where we left off on meeting number 2. We finalized the foundations document that is on our webpage. So if you want to take a look at the final draft, the final version of that, it's available to you. We learned about grid readiness and from the 3 IOUs and from Mr. Reyes from Kit Carson. And today we'll hear a little more to that from the rural electric cooperatives. And then we also learned about New Mexico's housing stock. And we brainstormed barriers to residential small commercial building decarb and developed the barrier summary that we'll spend some time on today. So our objectives here today, we're going to round out our understanding of grid readiness with Carmen Campbell. We'll do some time on the program showcase to learn about decarbonization efforts, and really grateful for the 8 participants who signed up for that and give us a few minutes of programs that they're working on in their various organizations. We'll spend the bulk of our time identifying and prioritizing actions to overcome the barriers that we fleshed out last meeting. And then at the end, we will be asking for volunteers to expand on the actions that we developed today. So if agenda, Deb has dropped that into the chat there for you. I also we sent that around this morning, so you might want to print that out as well if you have a printer available. We're going to jump into a presentation by the New Mexico RECA. Then we'll spend some time on the program showcase. I'm going to touch on the barrier summary and a recap of where we landed. And then we'll spend the bulk of the afternoon in breakout discussions. We will take a 10-minute break here to give people a little refresh. And you'll notice at 3:10, we'll be prioritizing actions. So I really encourage folks to stay on till the end. That's where we're going to start to identify priorities and what moves to the top of the list for this group for the roadmap. And then meeting recap and a brief poll at the end. All right, so today you are going to need your thinking caps. I think we warned you in our emails. We hope you've come ready to roll up your sleeves and really dig in on what we can do to decarbonize New Mexico's residential and small commercial building stock. So with that, I'm going to move on to item number 2 in the agenda. And I want to introduce Carmen Campbell from the New Mexico Rural Electric Cooperatives. She's the grant program manager for the Cooperative Association since 2023. She previously worked at Jemez Mountains Electric Cooperative in just about every department, she says, in management for over 20 years. Passionate about the electric industry and the cooperative model, and a lifelong rural New Mexican resident. And Carmen, thank you for your patience. I know we asked you to hold from last meeting, so welcome, and I'll let you take it away.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everybody. Let me see if I can get my computer set up here. Can you see
Yep. We've got your slides up.
Okay, then I think I've got it where I can. See where I can advance it here. Just a second. Oh, there it is. Okay. So, I work for the New Mexico Rural Electric Cooperatives, which is a trade association for the rural electric cooperatives in New Mexico. Each state has one, all across the United States. And then there's also a national organization, which is the NRECA or the National Rural Electric Cooperative Association. Here in New Mexico, we wanted to show you all of the footprint because it's a pretty big one. We cover 80% of the landmass in New Mexico. And of course, that landmass is all in the rural areas that our state has, and the small towns and things that the IOUs don't occupy. And you'll see the gray areas are going to be Farmington, Albuquerque, Rio Rancho, and parts of Los Lunas. Then you have Las Cruces, and they're near El Paso and stuff. So we're everywhere else. And there's a lot of ground to cover. We have over 58,000 miles of line, and serving, like I said, every rural corner of the state. One thing I do want to mention is, and I think Luis alluded to this, but the cooperatives are member owned and nonprofit. And so they operate on that cooperative model. So it provides the business model for them to actually succeed in these rural areas where you don't have the density and the economies of scale to provide electric service. Still struggling with the
Carmen, can we help you with the slide?
Yeah, it's not letting me advance to the next one. Let me see if I can. Try it somewhere else. I thought that was the right one. I have reasons, so it's let me.
We can drive the slide if that would be helpful.
Let me try one more. Yes, I think it would be. I didn't realize now it's stuck on me.
Okay, do you want to take yours down?
Yes.
Okay, Deb, is that you if you can advance? Okay, there. Go ahead.
Okay, so wanted to speak to the point that the electric cooperatives, their preparedness for electrification. And this is something that the co-ops have been preparing for since their inception back in the 1930s. Is they work very closely with RUS, and in doing that, they are generally operating under a 4-year and long-term engineering plan, and that is usually designed for, that allows for expansions and upgrades. The distribution systems are designed and built to handle between 25 and 50% more than the current load. Understanding that these electrification has been growing. The other thing that these 4-year plans incorporate is actively modernizing and hardening the grid to accept more renewable energy and electrification expansion. So putting in more monitoring and data collection allows them to understand where expansion needs to take place. They aren't, I mean, this is an ongoing process, and the co-ops are each in different levels of maturity in modernization, but it is something that they actively plan for. And then just regular grid hardening is, regular maintenance and routine maintenance and stuff is something they do regularly. One thing I wanted to mention in respect to electrification is, because the co-ops are rural, there's not a lot of access to natural gas. And so propane is actually not that much cheaper than using all electric. And so there's a lot of the co-op members are already geared toward using all electric. And of course, as they become more efficient and more cost effective, that's something that the co-ops have already seen a growth in, and they promote that, as we'll show in future slides. So that kind of tackles the last two, is that propane is more expensive. When you're dealing with natural gas, then natural gas is so much cheaper than electric or propane, but that's generally in the urban areas. So just think a special note for cooperatives. Do you want to go to the next slide? So I wanted to talk about the rural electric distribution cooperative initiatives that they have towards beneficial electrification. And the co-ops have for a long time, and they continue to expand, is energy efficiency efforts. So they all have different programs. Some of them are kind of similar, and some of them not so much, but they all have different programs, like low to no interest loans. And they either do that through their G&T or through like where they can collect 1% and put it in the energy efficiency fund through the, PRC allows for that. There's also rebates. They give rebates for Energy Star appliances and EV. We actually have 16 level 2 and 11 level 3 electric chargers throughout the state that have taken advantage of those rebates. I'm not sure if anybody's heard of electric thermal storage units, but these are electric heaters that use bricks to store heat during off-peak hours, and then throw the heat out using that stored energy. And it's kind of old school, but it's something that's it's very efficient, and something that the co-ops have supported and continue to support to this day. And then various co-ops will provide electric water heaters, and some of them they'll provide timers and along with time of use rates. And then, of course, there's the weatherization incentives that are especially geared towards low-income members. And then going to rates, something that the co-ops have been doing for the last few years is trying to shift from KWH sales to cost of service rates so that revenue to operate is not dependent on kilowatt hour sales. And what that means is if you start saving energy through energy efficiency or producing your own energy through behind the meter solar or wind or storage, the co-op can still operate and not have to shift those additional costs to people who do actually use the kilowatt hours. And then of course, they've been offering time of use rates for a long time and even rates that incentivize going all electric. Moving over to renewable energy, want to know that the co-ops and along with, and I know Luis also talked about this for Kit Carson, but the co-ops are meeting and exceeding the New Mexico Energy Transition Act. Locally, the co-ops have over 25 megawatts of utility scale solar projects that they do in conjunction with their all powers contracts from their generation and transmission providers. And there's over the, and I think it's the numbers are probably a lot higher on behind the meter solar. Right now, I'm assuming or estimating at about 15 megawatts, but I think that number is a lot higher once we, collect more information. And that one, I've seen that grow exponentially every year. And so that goes back to, the co-ops having to be prepared to accept that. And then of course, Tri-State is right now, by the end of the year, they're going to be 50% renewable energy that's supplied to the co-ops. And then they're also going to be 80%, have an 80% emissions reduction in greenhouse gas by 2030. So they're well above the New Mexico ETA. And then that serves 11 of the co-ops. And then 4 of the co-ops get their power from Western Farmers, who's currently at 26% renewable energy. But that doesn't include the power they receive from hydropower or the 37% of wind generation that the Southwest Power Pool provides them in their energy mix. And then they're committed to meet 50% renewable in the next couple of years. That was a lot. Next slide. Thank you. So the challenges that the co-ops are facing right now is the rural communities have been decreasing over the years. There's been some huge strides to change that, and we need to continue to do that. But it means businesses are closing, workers are difficult to hire and retain, and the cost of operating the electric co-op, since it's owned by the members, is spread across a smaller number of members, and that increases the people that are left. It increases their energy burden. The co-ops are going to be slow to electric car adoption because of the cost of the cars and the lack of charging infrastructure, because as you can see from that picture, there's long distances. There's quite a few co-ops that have 4,000 miles of line that they have to operate in. And so those are members, their members are, half an hour, 45 minutes, 2 hours from the nearest store. And so not having that energy, not having that electric vehicle infrastructure in place is really, they can't afford to be stuck on the side of the road. And so that they need that confidence in place with that infrastructure to be able to charge down the road and make it to the next place they need to go. And to that point, the largest percentage of the territories serve homes on not just long roads, but a large majority of that is on unimproved dirt roads. And so that's additional challenges that drive up cost and just something that they have to deal with on a day-to-day basis. So supporting the electric cooperatives, I thought kind of long and hard on that. And the biggest thing I think is anything that helps rural economic development that's going to help the co-ops, because, going back to that point, if you grow the business, bring the businesses back and bring the employees back, and it all just makes a healthier environment for people. And then funding, one of the key points that a lot of the managers have mentioned is that funding weatherization and energy efficiency and for low-income members is really crucial, especially when you start talking about putting solar on their houses or doing that. Fundamentally, they need that weatherization, and I know that's a big thing that we've talked about in these meetings, and so that's huge. And then having the cost-effective building and appliance options. They're already going electric. If there's better options out there that are more efficient, they're going to go for them. And building out that charging infrastructure first, so the adoption will follow. It will. And then, just like meetings like this, invite the co-ops to the table, because they have a lot to offer.
Thank you, Carmen. We appreciate you joining us, and yes, very much welcome to the table, and appreciate the time and thought. I'll go ahead and just open it up. If you have a question for Carmen, I see a few coming in through the chat. Maybe raise your hand and we can call on you. Maybe I'll tap into our chat here. Carmen, I see one that is, do you have an estimate of the percentage price difference between electric and natural gas? Very interesting that the price model is switched.
I don't have a percentage, but back when I was working with members who were thinking of switching to electric, their electric bill would increase by, like, they would use 1/4 without electric, and then 3/4. It would just because that's what uses the most electricity, is anything heater.
The heat. Okay. And then we had another question of the percentage of the land mass that's cooperatives. I believe I heard you say 80% of New Mexico land mass is cooperative territory.
Yes.
And then percentage of ratepayers, I guess in this case, members of within New Mexico that are in a cooperative model.
Well, they serve about close to 200,000 members. But they may have more than one account, but it represents about 480 people, household, people of all ages, because there's more to each household.
Okay. Okay. Any others from the group here before we let Carmen go? Okay. Thank you so much. We really appreciate the time and the thought and the information for us on grid readiness in rural New Mexico.
Thank you.
So I'm going to
Kathy, sorry, I'll just add that Andrew Stone offered a reference about heat pumps with thermal batteries in the chat. So thanks, Andrew, for providing that.
Thank you. All right, so I'm going to turn to item number 3 on our agenda, the program showcase. And we've had quite a bit of excitement around this. We had 8 volunteers that have come forward to give us just a brief introduction to some of the programs happening around the state. So the purpose here is for you all to hear about the different programs that are scattered throughout the state, perhaps make some connections, and also to prompt your thinking to actions that we might consider to overcome barriers in our discussions later today. So the instructions that I gave to participants This is just a 2-minute, very brief, rapid-fire introduction to a program in their organization. I asked that it be a lightning round, so no slides, no Q&A, and I know that may be frustrating for some folks. We know this is not enough time for a big conversation, and that you may walk away with questions. So all the participants have agreed to share their emails and would encourage you to follow up after this. We'll put those emails into the meeting summary for you. And if I can work it here, I might even get them into the chat for you while we're going for you to follow up offline and really have those in-depth conversations. So if I could ask the 8 participants to come turn your camera on. I see a few of you coming on. Deb has dropped into the chat the order here that we're going to go through so you can see who's talking. And we are really going to do this pretty rapid fire. And I'm just going to call on you as we go. So listen with an ear both to your own interests and your own work, and then also considering actions that we're going to discuss later today and ideas that you might bring forward. So Ona with Prosperity Works, go ahead. Thank you.
Thank you for the opportunity. So Prosperity Works' mission is actually to close the wealth gap. And so people wonder, why are we in the work of energy efficiency and affordability and sustainability? And there are 2 reasons for that. One of those is that the energy burden among the clients that we serve is very high. And we have actually provided efficiency services to people who are paying as much as 30% of their annual income for their home energy. In addition to that, we don't believe that we can reach our carbon goals if we don't address the needs of limited income people. So as a result of that, we've been running what we call the Community Energy Efficiency Program in the greater Albuquerque area for about 3 years. And it's a capital stacking model. We begin with the investor-owned utility energy efficiency programs. We also have access to the water authority for toilets. And then adding on to that are grants that we get. So one of the major grants that is available right now in New Mexico is SEED, Community Energy Efficiency Development Block Grant. And that legislation is actually based on Prosperity Works' model of community engagement and also of capital stacking. And so we are right now getting ready to launch about $3 million in energy efficiency and beneficial electrification to the city of Albuquerque, the county of Bernalillo, and Bernalillo, the town of Bernalillo. In addition to that, we are part of the city of Albuquerque and the metro area CPRG grant, and there's about $43 million of the $99 million that's in there for us for that. I think that's my 2 minutes.
Thank you, Ona. On to Alice Main from the city of Albuquerque.
Hi, everyone. Nice to meet you. I'm Alice Main. I work at the City of Albuquerque, and I am actually the CPRG grant manager. So the program I'm sharing with you all today is that we have a phase 1 funding, and we also applied for phase 2 funding. So we currently have funding for creating a climate action plan for the entire metro statistical area. One of the big sectors that we'll be looking at and providing strategies for and doing a lot of education and outreach around is the built environment. So we're really looking forward to taking a lot of the discussions and outcomes of this group and folding it into that plan, and then asking industry, governments, and other stakeholders within the region to sign on to commitments and try to make some of these things actionable. So think of it as a educational opportunity, and hopefully I'll be able to help assist mobilize some of this into action. So that's where the planning component comes in. And then the implementation grant that we applied to, that we really hope we'll get, will, as Ona said, have additional funds for additional building electrification components, among other things. Thank you.
Thank you, Alice. And we love that there's a nice conduit to take the roadmap here and move it forward into action. That's fantastic. Next up, Carl Ulabari.
Hello, everyone. My name is Carl. I represent a my own business, NM Home Solutions, and I'm here representing Santa Fe Community College and Energy Smart Academy. And I wanted to showcase today a training program that we're just getting ready to kick off to upskill existing HVAC contractors to learn more about and adopt and try to promote the sales of cold climate heat pumps. So our goal with this training is not just to provide technical training, but also to provide the knowledge base and to showcase that the product does work here in northern climates, colder climates, and hopefully get them to change their mindset regarding heat pumps, standard heat pumps, and the transition to cold climate heat pumps that will work in a more energy efficient manner for our climate, and especially up north in colder areas. So there's that. And then the second thing we're doing, it's going to be a little further out in the future, is we're working on a training program and a grant with the ECMD for energy auditors. And we won't know about that till probably around January, but we're looking for community support for a funnel of students that would be wanting to be interested in getting involved in energy auditing. And we're going to provide a fully funded training program for that once we get it kicked off. But again, that's a little further out in the future, but I just wanted to mention that for the group. And that is all I have.
Thank you, Carl.
Mhm.
Jim Desjardins.
Good afternoon, everyone. Jim Desjardins. I'm the Executive Director of the Renewable Energy Industries Association of New Mexico. A lot of folks know us by our acronym REIA-NM. We have about 60 plus diverse members, and we've been around since 2004. Our mission is to support, promote, and advance the transition to renewable energy in New Mexico. And my discussion is going to be basically about how renewable energy fits into building decarbonization. Until we're able to operate buildings without energy, which is obviously a very interesting and cool concept, the current best practices will be to accomplish building decarbonization have to be done through providing building electrification using renewables, think solar, to power the buildings. The future of energy production will include small, medium, and large renewable energy generators. One size fits all will not accomplish this goal. This will necessitate making the best use of our built environment for the placement of renewable energy generation on all of our buildings, as long as they need energy. So I would suggest that we need to think about solar and solar plus storage to do this. One interesting concept that our organization is looking into is something called distributed power plants, also known as virtual power plants. And this involves networking on-site solar with storage to enable these generators to dispatch energy when needed to the grid. So we believe that all buildings should have the goal of having this type of energy generation on them. We also believe that this approach will be the smartest, most equitable, and orderly path to an orderly transition to a clean energy economy. So we believe that it's imperative that any discussion about building decarbonization include how we ensure that our buildings are powered by clean energy. Thank you very much for the time.
Thank you, Jim. And on to David Chacon.
Hello, everybody. My name is David Chacon from El Paso Electric, and thank you for this opportunity. First of all, I want to start by saying that we have a very specific website for New Mexicans. It's called epsaver.com, where you can find the residential programs that we incentivize, the small commercial programs. But right now, I really want to talk about heat pumps, and I'm glad the other participants mentioned it, because we have incentives on water heater heat pumps and also heat pumps for heating your home. So now you can rely on the electricity to, finally having that heating element or heating component very efficiently. And we offer those incentives to that. What Jim mentioned is great, because a lot of folks don't understand that. They think electrification, it just goes of what small measures we can do, but they don't think globally or like a global community, I guess. It sounds backwards, but this is the way I see it. We're a small community, but at the same time, we gotta think globally what we're doing over here. And I have experience with the solar and the energy storage. I'm also the load management manager here for El Paso Electric. I manage the load management for New Mexico and Texas, and we're implementing now new programs. But in the decarbonization, we don't realize how much of an impact it creates. But now with the new heat pumps and technologies that are coming up, uh, you're not sacrificing the comfort of it. Au contraire, once you go with a heat pump, you will never go back and anything else. And now El Paso Electric also has its own program for incentivize EV chargers, so people can it can be more affordable. And now because we see the need for it, we're also incentivizing um, the home, we call it service upgrade in the electrical world. So whenever, if it's necessary to upgrade your electrical service from 100 amp to 200 amp, there's an incentive for it. So that way your electrification becomes more easy, and the transition is a little bit less cost upfront. And we got rebates for all of that. And again, go to the website, it's epsaver.com, and my email will be posted. Feel free to reach out, and thank you for your time, everybody, and for everything you guys are doing.
Thank you, David. And Anna, thank you. She dropped in the epsaver.com there for you if you want to follow the website, the link there. Thank you, Anna. On to Drew Jones.
Okay, can you hear me? Great. I'm Drew Jones with P&M Public Service Company of New Mexico. We're the largest investor-owned utility here in the state of New Mexico. We have a slew of energy efficiency programs, as well as transportation electrification programs. One that I will highlight today comes from our energy efficiency programs. It's called Think Energy. It is implemented by a group called National Energy Foundation. And what this is energy literacy. We are in the classrooms of 5th grade classrooms and 11th grade classrooms, as well as one component which outreaches to senior centers and reaches out to customers that would be meeting in senior centers, and what we call that group is our energy smart seniors. And again, it is all around energy literacy, energy education, teaches them about energy resources, energy generation, efficiency, highlights the state goals, Energy Transition Act, and as well as the utility goals as well. The educational curriculum is built in collaboration with the New Mexico Public Education Department, focuses on their STEM initiatives, and also syncs up with a timing of implementation based on what the curriculum is being taught during the different times of the year. So students and seniors get all this education of how to use energy more efficiently. They also get to go home with a goodie bag full of things like LED light bulbs, night lights, advanced power strips, shower heads, shower timers, faucet aerators, insulation, outlet gaskets, door sweeps, and a whole bunch of other goodies. And through all this work, the savings that it produces is about 3.1 megawatt hours a year. And teachers are also eligible to receive a $200 mini grant for allowing us to host this energy literacy campaigns in their classrooms. Yeah, and that's our program.
Thank you, Drew. Bella.
Thank you. Good afternoon. I'm the interim CEO of the Climate Investment Center, the state's green bank. Our mission is to reduce greenhouse gas emissions by increasing access to clean energy and energy efficiency services for all New Mexicans, especially those in low-income, disadvantaged communities. We connect individuals, communities, and businesses to the capital they need to make such changes to their residences and businesses, especially where there are currently financing gaps. We're working on various funding sources, including those in EPA's Greenhouse Gas Reduction Fund programs. And we're currently working with Colorado's Green Bank, Colorado Clean Energy Fund, to develop our initial loan portfolios. We have some exciting initiatives, multifamily affordable housing pre-development loans for energy efficient design and construction, potential solar leases and low-cost solar loans for low-income households, financing of community-owned community solar and shared solar projects, and so on. As we work on capital funding sources, we're building out a list of projects that will result in greenhouse gas reductions, and are looking for financing. You can submit an intake form for projects with a link that Christian is putting in the chat right now. So if you're interested in financing, please let us know. We're working closely with the Coalition of Sustainable Communities to develop a statewide network of low-income households to provide them with the education and information on numerous federal and climate investment center programs to help them reduce their energy burdens. Thank you.
Thank you, Beth. We appreciate you joining us today. And I apologize. I realized at the beginning, top of the hour, I skipped over welcoming new participants. So I won't do that now. But for those of you that are new to the effort, welcome and thank you for joining us. And we do have a website we'll share at the end here where you can look at past meeting notes. So apologies on that oversight on my part. And then lastly, we'll hand it over to Colin, please, from the Energy, Minerals, and Natural Resources.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
All right, so I work at the Energy, Mineral, and Natural Resources Department, specifically for the Energy Conservation and Management Division. The main thing I oversee here is ESCOs. ESCO stands for Energy Service Companies. These companies conduct comprehensive facility energy audits and identify options for capital improvements to save energy. They do this in the form of guaranteed energy savings performance contracts. The goal is to lower overall energy consumption of the facility, and that results in utility cost savings. These contracts accomplish this by replacing HVAC, replacing lights, replacing the overall building envelope, installing solar panels and EV chargers. What's really cool about these energy service contracts is New Mexico guarantees savings over the life of the contract. So if you your facility puts $1 million in to replace all this stuff, you will see more than $1 million back in utility cost savings over the life of the contract. So you can find more of that stuff at our website, at the MNerd website under ESCOs, or email me with any questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Colin. And that is our program showcase. So hopefully that gave you just a little taste of some of the excellent work that's happening around the state. And emails are in the chat there for you. I'll put them into meeting summaries. If you, I'm sure many of you have questions or would like to follow up, so please do so. That is very much a part of this roadmap, is to help to connect folks who are working on various elements of building decarbonization in the state. So we're going to move on to the next part of our agenda, the barrier summary recap. And I'm going to go ahead and share my screen here. Okay, so at our last meeting, we spent a significant amount of time brainstorming barriers to decarbonization. We grouped those into rough categories. If you'll remember, we had the chart on the table with on the screen with financial, regulatory, customer awareness, various quadrants that we worked to fill out. We took that back, ran out of time, so we compiled notes, chat contributions, compiled everyone's input into a barrier summary that we shared with you between meetings. We circulated that for another round of reviews and got several comments back, and then developed it into a revised barrier summary. So I've abstracted that on the slide here for you. Deb, if I could ask you to drop in the chat the barrier summary. This is one of the pieces of materials that we asked you to look at this morning, or possibly print out. You're going to want to keep that barrier summary handy. So I encourage you to open it, maybe put it on a second screen if you're in a place where you can do that, you're likely going to want to refer to that during the breakout discussions that are coming up. So to review where we landed. On the barrier summary, we roughly categorized into 5 different categories of barriers: low awareness and interest, low perceived customer value, low perceived contractor value, misaligned policy, and infrastructure readiness. So within the first one, low awareness and interest, roughly, this is, I'm sort of distilling from the barrier summary that's in the chat there for you. The amount of dispersed information. I think we've all experienced that, where there are federal, state, city, utility, there's a lot of different information that can be overwhelming. Customer education is a struggle. It's just too complex. Some contractor hesitancy that it's new technology, it's a risk to their business model, and so hesitant to adopt something that comes with higher risk. And I think as we started this effort, recognition that residential and small commercial is just 4% of greenhouse gas emissions for the state, for the total portfolio. So it is a lower impact to the state carbon footprint. And to sort of circle back to one of our early themes, it, however, is where people work and live and feel like it's most immediate, even if it is not the highest impact to reducing greenhouse gas emissions for the state. Under the second category, then, the low perceived customer value, and the benefits are often not quantified. You see the low upfront cost for customers, or the high upfront cost when they're looking at the sticker price to buy, but they don't necessarily see the longer term benefits as they're making their purchase decision. Again, the paperwork complexity to apply for rebates, incentives, tax rebates, it's a very high bar for customers. High upfront costs and affordability, long payback times, those concerns of just, am I going to be in the home long enough to make a return on this investment? And then last point on this one was lack of tailored programs. And this is both for customer segment, whether it's a low income or a socioeconomic segment, but also rural versus urban and different needs, just as we heard from Carmen earlier. Concerns of low density per mile in the cooperative territory versus in more urban environments. Then the third barrier, the low perceived contractor value. Workforce training, we've heard that many times. I think lots of you have this experience that the contractors are just unfamiliar with it and not interested in adopting the new technology. Little incentive to promote the new tech. So if customers aren't asking for it, the contractors may not be responsive. And another one, thank you folks who weighed in on this one for us, that there are few energy auditors in the state, particularly out in the rural communities. Misaligned policy. So we had a lot here. No state policy to reduce building emissions. No rate designs for beneficial electrification. And I would qualify that. I think that is in the IOU territories. We just heard from Carmen that several of the co-ops are pursuing BE rates. Lack of regulatory certainty for utilities. So if their programs can result in greenhouse gas emission reductions, do they get the benefits for that or not? And how is that applied? That the existing regulations provide incentives for natural gas expansion and consideration if the state is looking to reduce greenhouse gas emissions, is that not a misalignment? State standards came up as well, that the building codes have been slow to adopt the most recent energy conservation codes, and recognize that there is one in the field happening this month. So very excited to the folks who made that work, but know it was a long time in coming. Also, a lack of indoor air quality requirements by the state. And then the last input here as a barrier was no accounting by the PRC for the cost externalities of greenhouse gas emissions. And then on our last category of barriers, infrastructure readiness. So large inventory of old homes, as we heard from the Housing Authority last time, a significant percentage that are built before the year 2000. The increasing electrical demand and what that does for investment needs and costs for consumers, and the need for grid modernization and balancing how that planning is done. So what we're going to do, I'm going to move us into breakout rooms. So let me walk you through how this is going to work. And again, and really encourage you all to put your thinking caps on here. This is a little bit involved, but I think we can do it. We're going to spend the next hour working to answer the question, what actions can the state take to overcome these barriers? So in red there, you see the same 5 that we just ran through: low awareness and interest, low perceived customer value, low perceived contractor value, misaligned policy, and infrastructure readiness. So in just a minute, we're going to open breakout rooms and you can choose where you want to focus. So think through these 5, which of those 5 do you most want to work on, and think about actions that we can develop for this roadmap to overcome the barriers. So how is this going to work? I'm going to move on to the discussion slide. So Deb, if you could drop a link to this into the chat, and this is a live link. And I'm going to hold here for a minute I encourage folks to open this up and put it on your second screen. And if you could move to slide 4. I am going to hold here. I see folks opening it up, so keep going. Thank you. It's really important that everybody has this link to our discussion rooms. Okay, and if you could navigate to slide 4, so it looks like what you're seeing on screen. Looks like we've got about 20 plus folks in, so good. That's a critical mass for us. Thank you. So what you see here, these are the discussion slides. So we're going to let you pick a breakout room in just a minute. When you get into your breakout room, you're going to want to find your discussion slide. And you see down in the bottom footer there in red, low awareness and interest. And then if I keep moving through the slide 5, low perceived customer value, slide 6, low perceived contractor value, and so on. So when you get to your breakout room, find your slide, your discussion slide, and then follow the directions that are on the panel there. The first item is to choose a timekeeper and reporter and reader for your breakout room. Then follow the instructions. There are roles for each of those 3. And we're going to ask you all to think through the program showcase, what you know from your own work, and together brainstorm actions that New Mexico can take to overcome these barriers, and then capture your group's thinking in the notes on the right-hand side panel. All right, so let me repeat here so everybody's on clear. Decide the barrier that you want to work on. Choose your breakout room. Find your discussion slide. Make sure you look at the slide footer in red, that you're on the right slide. It's in slides 4 through 8. Identify a timekeeper, reporter, and reader, and then follow the instructions on your activity slide. And we will be coming around to each of the 5 rooms to help if you guys get hung or stuck on things. So if you're waiting, we're coming, but we will help to facilitate. But our sense is this group, you all have been very thoughtful and very active, and we're going to give this a try and see if you guys can capture actions that you think this roadmap should take. So before we open breakout rooms, questions?
Kathy, let me add a couple of things. One, don't worry if you have 2 topics that you want to work on, you will have 2 chances. We're going to do breakout rooms in 2 cycles. We'll do the first set, then you'll have a second chance to pick another topic. So pick the one you're most passionate about, and then we'll give you a chance for the second. Kathy, I also see a question from Drew about accessing the Google Docs. Drew, what we're going to do, if folks can't get to the Google Docs, we'll have somebody in the breakout session who will display this document and capture the verbal input. So we realize that's a little awkward for those who can't get there, but we will use the on-screen version of the discussion slides to capture your input. So thank you for raising that at this point.
Thank you, Drew. Yeah, we know that for the utilities, particularly the Google products are, so we're trying to do this in a way that everybody could be a part. Any other questions from folks before we send you before we open the breakout rooms?
So, are you going to send us to breakout rooms depending on what we pick, or are you picking for us? I'm a little confused on that.
Nope, we're going to open them here and you get a pick. So you'll see 5 rooms with each of those barriers and you can select it.
Okay, I thought we were able to see it by now. Okay, that makes sense. Thank you.
Okay, and the rooms are open there, so you should be able to choose where you want to go. We'll sit here for a minute if you get stuck to help those, and otherwise we'll send you off. We're going to take a half an hour for this, so you'll see a 5-minute warning, and let's have folks join back about 2:30.
If for some reason you're not seeing the banner that says choose a room, you might need to go to the 3 buttons that say more at the bottom right-hand side of your Zoom screen. And there will be a breakout room option. If you hit that, then it will give you your choices. Kathy, I'm not seeing the banner here. So your alternative is to go to the more 3 buttons bottom right, hit breakout rooms, and then you should get a choice.
Should I go to one that there's not people in, or should I hop in on, because I'm going between a few that I'd be interested
Alice,
in.
that would be fantastic. That was one of our concerns if we have low attendance in a room. But yeah, it looks like customer value, contractor value, there's very few in those. Thank you.
Yeah.
For those left on, can we help you get to a room?
Was washing the rooms.
Yep. Ona, Vince, David, Adam, can we help you guys find a place?
Yeah, you could. I don't know where are these rooms?
Do you have a barrier that you wanted to focus on, Vince?
I think he's talking about how to get into the room.
Yeah, and we can assign you if you want to tell us where you'd like to go.
Yeah, you go ahead and pick me wherever you need another person. How's it?
So I'm thinking, how about customer, since Tri-States has a lot of customer programs for beneficial electrification? How does that sound?
Thank you.
All right, I'm going to send you off. Thanks, Vince.
Low awareness and interest, Ona.
Okay, let me get Ona would like to go. All right, off you go, Ona. Thank you.
Thank you.
And Adam, can we send you somewhere? Okay, Adam may have dropped off. All right, Deb, you doing okay?
I'm doing great.
Okay. All right, I am going to go check in on the rooms and make sure they're moving along okay. So Panama, this is where we're hoping they're going to self-facilitate. I want to keep a low profile, but I want to make sure things are moving along. So take a half an hour breather and we'll see you at 2:30.
Cool. See you then.
I checked in with the first group. I'm gonna go check in with the second group.
Hi, Susan. You just coming in?
Sorry, just joining.
Yes.
Sorry
So
for joining
we have-
late.
Yep, we have everybody working off in breakout rooms and to identify actions on different barriers that they think the state should take. So can I help you find a room and maybe you can kind of join and get the sense of what's working, what's happening?
You know, when are they going to come back?
We're doing 2 half-an-hour chunks and then we're breaking at 3 o'clock. So maybe if you come back at like 3:10 when we start to prioritize actions, that might be a good time. If I remember correctly, you're a communications person with NRDC, is that right?
No, I work for, I'm part of the environmental entrepreneurs team, which is our business voice, not comms. But
Okay.
yeah, it's probably better if I come back instead of stepping in the middle. Sorry, I
Okay.
couldn't make it, but I
Yeah.
actually only had about an hour of the 3, so maybe
Yeah.
I'll just wait for notes.
Okay. If that makes sense for you, this was kind of tricky to set up. So I'm happy to help you walk through it if you wanted to figure it out. We could send you to one of the rooms, but if it feels like we're mid-stride and better for you to just catch up with the notes, I understand.
Yeah, I think that's probably better, but thank you so much.
Okay. Thanks for joining us.
All righty, take care.
Bye.
Bye.
Hi. All right. I've been to 3 breakout rooms and I ran into Margie in one of them. So I think they're off and running. So I'm going to just collect my thoughts here. So I'm ready for when they come back. But we're ahead of schedule for once.
Yeah.
And I'm assuming Adam probably stepped away, but if he returns, let me know and I'm happy to help him. Okay. Doing okay?
Mhm.
Okay. Thank you. Well, we're not getting the highlighting on these, but
Yeah, I think there's great content being added, so that's good.
yeah. All right, here come folks. Welcome back. We're just going to give it a minute as everybody gets situated, coming back to the main room. I think we're about half in. Okay. Margie, can you tell, do we still have one room coming back in, or are we all here?
We should all be back. I see 23 participants, and I think that's what we had in the breakout. So I think everybody's back.
Okay. Okay. Welcome back, everybody. Thank you. We dropped in on several of the rooms and there were very productive conversations going on. We really appreciate the reporter, particularly, to capture things. I am going to share my screen again. And I want to just highlight one group that was really on the ball here. I'm in the low perceived customer value. This group had a very small pool, but they did a really nice job of both identifying a very specific action and then who would take it. And just to kind of give you a sample of, we're going to build off of this. So in the next breakout room, if you kind of work towards this, what is the specific action and who is going to take it on what timeline? So to move us along, as Margie offered, we're going to go into a second round of breakouts. You get a second bite at the apple here. Pick a second barrier, and you'll notice on screen we're in the purples now. And this is a sort of a visual code for you. You want to look for your slide where the slide footer is in purple. Pick a different barrier to go into for a breakout room. So we're going to open again in just a minute. Pick a different barrier, decide which one you want to work on, choose your breakout room, find your discussion slide, and now you all are pretty familiar. Identify a timekeeper, reporter, and reader, and go ahead and take another round here to identify actions that the state might take to overcome barriers. Any questions?
And Kathy, I'll just add, so folks know where we're headed next. The second breakout will add some comments on those same 5 barriers, some actions. And then as a group, we're going to look at them together. So don't worry about what the previous group in that barrier area did. Just use your best thought. We will do the condensing and consolidation at the break time. We'll put those all together, and then we'll have the discussion about each category for the benefit of both breakout sessions.
Okay, so any questions before we send you off? All right, we'll sit in the main room. Deb, go ahead and open them and pick a different barrier. Look for your purple slide this time to identify actions.
Kathy, could you put me in the infrastructure?
Yes, we'll do, Vince.
Thank you.
Yes.
I don't.
Nope, that's off you go.
And I'd like to be in the low perceived customer value, please.
Okay. Off you go, Ona. Thank you. Anybody else I can help find a room?
If they have to hop off to another meeting, I'll be joining back soon.
Please do. Yep, we're going to prioritize at the end here. Thank you, David.
Thank you.
Tamara, can I help you find a room? Tamara or Adam, if either of you having troubles, let me know and I can help send you to a room. Alice, can I help you find a room?
I just hopped back on. So I take it this is round 2
Yes.
of, okay, cool.
Yeah.
And choose a different room,
Yeah.
obviously.
And I can go ahead and send you to one if you have a different barrier that you want to work on.
No, I can, gosh, I don't know. Maybe infrastructure readiness. That sounds like fun. Cool.
Okay.
Thanks.
All right, you ready? I'll send you there. Let's see.
Adam, could I check if you're still on the meeting? Adam Harper? Adam, we're just checking to see if you need assistance to get into a breakout room.
Hi, Camilla. We have everybody in breakout rooms. Okay, Deb, I think time for 5-minute notice. David, we're gonna finish up on the breakout rooms and we'll bring everybody back together. So I can drop you into a room for the last 5 minutes here, or if you just wanna pause and wait until the group comes back.
Yeah, I'll just wait. Thank you for asking.
Sure. Welcome back, folks. I'm just going to give it a minute here as everybody gets settled back in the main room.
Like we've got people back, Kathy.
Okay, we all here? Fabulous. I am so excited about the discussions I heard. Lots of great ideas and really good elaboration and building off of each other. So take a 10-minute break, take a breather, go refill your coffee, run to the bathroom, and come back at 3:10, please. And we're going to hear what happened in each of the rooms and start to prioritize and identify actions for this group. So we'll see you at 3:10. Thank you. Okay, I'm going to welcome folks back. If you could either put a thumbs up on your screen or maybe turn your camera on so I know folks are back before we jump in. There we go. Okay, so we're coming back from our 3 o'clock break. We're going to move into what I consider really the meat of taking what was just discussed over the last hour and developed in the breakout rooms and bring it back to the full group and prioritize actions for this roadmap as we start to build it together. So I'm going to share my screen, and I know it's a little bit small given the typing, but might encourage you to hold these slides. Again, same link that you were working on. I have shuffled the slides during the break, so things have moved around a little bit. And what I'd like to do over the next half hour or so is to take a look at what happened in each breakout room, hear from the reporters. If you could maybe walk us through the top 2 or 3 actions that you highlighted. And then as a group, let's crystallize it a little bit further and take it down to just a couple actions that this group wants to prioritize for the roadmap. So I want to start in the low awareness and interest, and I'm back to the red breakout group. I'll note for this group in the purple, we had nobody that joined it. So we had 1 breakout room for this one. So we can give you some time here. And if I could ask the reporter from the low awareness and interest breakout room 1 to come on and maybe walk us through the 3 items that are highlighted here.
Hello, I believe I'm the reporter for this one. And we talked quite a bit about the website that Energy and Minerals, also known as MNERD, is working on. This website is a one-stop for all. That is the ultimate goal. They will be starting with their own programs at first, but eventually what they're hoping to see is something that people can go to learn about many of the different rebates and opportunities there are for New Mexicans to take advantage of electrification opportunities. That was a good part of the discussion with quite a bit of input from the group. The potential is pretty large there. So we threw around a number of ideas with that. There are also, it was also mentioned that Arizona has what's called state-funded advisors. And that's when representatives from MNERD also said that New Mexico has what's called energy coaches laid out in the future. There'll be an RFP for that. where people can actually be advised as to where to go for these types of things, regardless of their income level, because there are definitely gaps depending on what the income level is. We talked a little bit about contractor hesitancy, and we didn't get into this a whole lot, but it appeared that one of the problems is demand, because contractors are going to respond to the demand, and that kind of goes back to the very first one, which is the low customer awareness and interest. So if we don't have that customer awareness and interest, then the contractors are not going to be wherever either. And please correct me, did I capture everything? I think so, but other members of the group, please say something if not.
Thank you, Troy. The Minerals and Natural Resources website, Dana, I wonder if you're still with us. I heard that in several rooms, the interest and excitement on the energy coaches and the website. Is there something further that you need that we could maybe include in the roadmap that would help to further this effort?
Yeah, this is actually part of Yenny, my colleague Yenny's program. It's being funded initially through the Here and Her programs, and that's the program that she's managing. So I can actually turn it over to Yenny for that question.
Thank you. Yenny?
Yeah, so right now we are in the super early stages of the Clearhouse website that we're developing. The main focus right now is to get the API, our API connected to DOE's PNNL's API to process the rebates. So that's where like 100% of the effort is going towards right now. But then once we get that up and running by Labor Day weekend, I think we can shift our attention to the next big thing, which is Solar for All. And our portal will also be processing some of that money. I don't know how that's going to look like for Solar for All. But then, like I was telling everyone in that break room, it looks like it will be an effort, an ongoing effort, a work in progress for many, many years, because after you build the website, you have to maintain it and you have to add and remove programs as they come and go. So right now, like I said, very, very stages, and the first things to go live are going to be Here and Her. So right now, I don't foresee other programs being put in there just yet until we have something more concrete and available for the public.
Okay. Okay. Do you have a sense of how many energy coaches MNERD will be able to employ?
No, it just depends on how many responses we get from the RFP, right? We could get one company that just exclusively trains energy coaches, and I don't know how many energy coaches they'll be able to train, or we could get 100 different energy coaches to put in for an RFP, and then we just select 100 different energy coaches. But no, I don't know what that framework is going to look like, because the RFP for energy coaches is also going to be paired with financial services for the state of New Mexico, kind of like a green bank. So we don't know.
Okay. Okay.
But the more the merrier.
Yeah,
of course.
yeah. So maybe building this network might be a piece of it. And so am I to understand from what you said, the energy coaches will be volunteers that are trained by a contractor? Is that the model?
Not volunteers. I think that they would be paid employed people by the contractor.
Okay. Okay. Thank you. Well, given this group had, we've pretty much got 3 actions here. Are there questions from any folks who are listening in that need clarification, or have further questions on what you see on the screen here of MNERD working on the website and developing the Energy Coaches program as both of those as a way of increasing customer demand?
I'd also love to see some actions around other kinds of entities, like not just the state, like maybe businesses or some of the biggest employers. I think often we tend to turn to government to solve all of our problems, but we have so many other tools in our toolbox. I know we can't force anyone to do anything, but I'd love to see like the top 15 employers in the state maybe provide some energy literacy as part of their HR something. Like there's all these other mechanisms for education and engagement that I think it'd be really interesting to explore.
Thank you, Alice. So I'm going to capture that large employers in the state to provide some energy literacy. Okay.
It would be good if it was a one single curricula that they were training, because that's part of the fighting the misinformation or disinformation is too many different angles on it, I guess.
Thank you, Andrew.
I have a feeling we have a Think Energy from P&M that we might be able to reutilize.
Thank you.
I can definitely put you in touch with the right people, that's for sure.
And that was Drew from P&M if we're looking for customer education on it. Thank you. And back to our program showcase, right? Thank you. Steffi, go ahead.
So we were in the second group, and I just want to add one more idea. And Andrew echoed some of that, but there are other groups, volunteers, and we could have Climate Corps students. But we all thought that these other groups should be able to supplement what MNER does, but also be trained in the same way that they are, and the IOUs as well. Because there are, misinformation, misunderstanding, and so everyone should have the same script.
Great, thank you. So some consistency in the education curriculum as well. Okay, so I think we've got, I would say really two actions here for low awareness and interest, and some really great thinking and great ideas. So we're going to focus in on the building the website and that sort of condensing the information, maybe an education component that could be a part of that. And then thinking through the energy coaches and that program of how that will look and how non-government individuals might be able to piggyback on some of the training and the work that's happening through those energy coaches. Thank you. And thank you, Troy, for being a reporter. So I'm going to go on then to, so the second room here, the purple room, no one picked that up. So we'll just keep moving. And let's go to our second barrier of low perceived customer value from the red group. So this was our first breakout group. Reporter, if you could come on and walk us through what you had, what you highlighted.
I think that's one thing we didn't do. So Vince or, oh gosh.
Yes, I helped with that.
David.
And David, yep.
So I guess I'll just quickly chime in here. We really came up with a few questions while I was on the call. One was mainly to address misinformation. So there's a lot of thematic overlaps with the previous topic, but really talking about addressing misinformation from customers and contractors by conducting educational presentations with key stakeholders from trusted voices. So really we tried to outline who some of those key stakeholders were. I thought some of the interesting ones were like tax advisors and midstream distributors, because those are often people who maybe have moments of influence that are outside of government control, because let's be honest, most of us here are part of government agencies or similar, and really leaning in on and trying to build off the trust that's already established between chambers of commerce or community-based organizations. The other piece that we really wanted to highlight was this providing opportunities to cover upfront costs, as that's a huge barrier for our low income or really moderate to low anyone with low finance or energy literacy as well, is if you're always going to choose the cheaper option unless you know unless you know better. And so this is an opportunity to do on-bill financing that maybe is a really low interest rate, or maybe it's covered by something like the Green Bank, because yeah, if people are making those split-second decisions when they're strapped for cash, they're always going to go for the low cost option. These other ones, we also mentioned kind of standing up a referral program to just sort of, again, build on that trust building. It's another different market mechanism for changing behavior. And then doing educational campaigns on utility bills. And this last one was discussed after I was on, but was adding EV chargers to help make rural utilities, rural electric cooperatives more viable into the future.
Thank you, Alice. Vince, are you still on with us from Tri-State? Can you address on-bill financing? Is that something that the member co-ops are have employed now?
Yeah, Tri-State just rolled that out in Colorado. So we're still in the rolling out period. We hope to expand that to New Mexico soon.
Sorry.
Pardon me?
Any initial reactions?
Well, so far, I guess it's been positive, but it's going to go part of a bigger program of where we can do that in the rural parts, and provide also the contractor in cases of, say, to put in a heat pumps or electric water heaters, or so that way we have the contractors in place that are willing to go into rural areas, do the work, and then we pay them directly. That way there's no problem with any hesitation on their part of will they get paid to make that effort. So all that is now being formulated up there on how we do that, what contractors we use, how that we can depend on, that we can do those things with. But we think it's in this forum that this breakout, poor people, if they don't have the money, their tax break isn't gonna, they may not even pay income tax, or they may not even file income tax because of their situation. So the rebate part, I don't know how big a deal is that. And I'm not sure if there's a threshold to how much money you can make or not make to either get that rebate back. So I guess that's something I need to check into. But anyway, the bottom line is, if a poor person is going to put in the cheapest water heater replacement as it possibly can.
Yeah.
And if that's gas again, then that might be. But if we give them that option where we could do it electricity and put it on their bill and let them pay it out over a long period of time, and they reap the benefits of the efficiency, then I think that we're going in the right direction.
Thank you. Camilla?
Yeah, I wanted to emphasize what Anna just put in the chat, that the rebates need to be refundable, meaning that you can get them as cash back even if you don't have a big tax debt. And many of my colleagues in the nonprofit world have worked hard to make sure that as many of the climate tax credits as we can are rebatable. So that's ideally cash in hand. Where the rubber hits the road, it gets a little bit harder. If it's like on an EV at the federal level, you can get that on the hood. Here, that even though that is written in as a possibility to the legislation, it's not set up that way for a dealer to be able to just sort of pay you your tax rebate and then get it back the next quarter from the state. So I think from the policy realm, that's something we have to continue to work on, but we need to make sure that low-income folks know when and where the rebate is cash instead of just a reduction on what you owe.
Thank you. And I see Andrew Stone put into the chat here, point of sale rebate. So the same idea of having it an immediate, either reduce the sticker price or money cash in hand as you're purchasing, to rather than a tax rebate down the road.
Yeah, and just to add to that, the HERE program does offer or will offer point of sale rebates for a few qualifying appliances.
Thank you, Yenny. Steffi?
Vince, does Tri-State have any programs for individual members that in order to electrify, they have to get an upgraded service, which can be very expensive? And is that discouraging people from upgrading?
You know, I don't think I could answer you with any great certainty. I'll look into that and get with you guys and send it out to the group and let you know what I find.
And the other thing is that there are incentives for keeping your gas furnace with your heat pump. Is that something that you think you'll continue? You get $500 more if you keep your furnace or you buy a new one?
I'll have to look into that.
Okay.
I'll get that.
Thanks.
Thank you, Vince. Thank you, Steffi. Okay, so I'm moving on to the purple group now, low perceived customer value. The reporter from that second breakout room, if I could ask you to come on, please, and walk us through. Well, Steffi, I'm sorry, I think I muted you just as are you the reporter? Go ahead.
Yeah, I'm the reporter, unless someone else wants to do it. We definitely think there should be an education campaign that the state should fund, and on social media, and also to help with personal interactions between people who are not part of social media. And I added one thing that Colorado is doing. They have excuse me, open houses of homes for people who have already electrified. So I think, you know, if we are doing projects, it would be great if that person would open their house for their neighborhood, you know, to come and see. The other thing that we see is a big barrier that we really should be able to reduce the complexity of filling out all the different applications for different programs. And Ona said there could be like a universal application that would allow you to apply for all programs, and making sure that it's not just for people who have computers, but people who might not and need assistance in doing that. And the third thing we thought that should be highlighted are the non-financial benefits, especially health. I don't think enough people know about the health hazards of burning fossil fuels in your home. And Ona pointed out that the highest payoff is usually in income limited households, and where the payoff is a lot in health benefits and better living.
Thank you, Steffi. Questions, clarifications from the group? So I think what I'm seeing, given what we just heard, we're hearing a lot about misinformation and the need for education, trusted voices. And then if we look back at the purple group, open houses, a state-funded campaign. So I think it really gets to this education. And then we hear reducing paperwork complexity. And from the previous group, the on-bill financing. So those sound like three pretty core actions that we could look at for this group to further on low perceived customer value. Andrew?
I just wanted to mention that I'm not sure what percentage of families live in rentals, but something that we thought of here was that the landlord has a low perceived value, but that may be something we want to move over to policy, something that's going to encourage the landlords to actually do this transition and electrification, et cetera.
So landlord requirement to provide adequate cooling? Is that's the requirement, just so I'm tracking?
Well, that would be an example, but of course, all the other things too, the insulation, the energy efficiency, especially where the landlord makes the tenant pay for energy. And yet, because they don't own that building, the tenant can't afford to do that. But the landlord might have access to things. So for them to perceive a value in upgrading their rentals.
One policy option is a good first step is energy disclosure. So forcing rental units, whether commercial or residential, to disclose what the energy costs are. And then another more extreme one could be, let's just start there.
And Alice, repeat it for me. Energy disclosure. This is a reporting that would be.
It basically requires landlords to disclose the energy cost of their units, either when they're renting it out, or you could also do one at point of sale as well, for any built environment infrastructure.
Right. Okay. And I see you've got this here as a policy consideration. So when we get to the misaligned policy, maybe we can bring this back. I just want to capture it now while we're on that discussion. So before we leave low perceived customer value, I think we're misinformation and need for education, whether it's through open houses or TikTok or trusted representatives in communities. Reducing the paperwork complexity. I would love to see universal application. It's a great idea. And from the previous slide, we heard on-bill financing as a tool to help support upfront costs.
Kathy, under item E, recruit CPAs to help in some way, I put into the chat some info on the direct pay elective pay program, which is substantial money back in your taxes. So you can copy and paste the thing from the chat if you want.
Super. Thank you, Anna. So this is tax advisors. There's already a network in place.
I think it needs probably needs a little bit more work to activate it, because not everybody might be aware of these non-competitive federal funds that you can get via the mechanism of tax filing. And entities that don't normally pay taxes also get this money, but they have to file. So it's like it's a whole kind of new industry, but it'll last 10 years. This is the first year of a 10-year program, and you can get, depending on what area is being serviced, anywhere from 20-30% all the way up to 70% of a project, like solar canopies, EV chargers, electric fleet, all kinds of stuff.
Great. Thank you, Anna. Okay, let's move on to our third barrier, low perceived contractor value. And so I'm back to the breakout group 1, the red folks. The reporter here could come on. It looks like maybe ran out of time here. Maybe talk us through if you have some top ideas from your group. Did we lose our reporter?
Yes, this is Anne. It was a group of 2. It was me and Tamara from CIP. So we really, I was really listening and taking down a lot of notes and kind of realities from Tamara's work with the journeymen and the contractors and the union halls and so forth. So really we just tackled like who and where are we finding these people, where are the opportunities, and then what is the approach? So the who, so we didn't have a chance to highlight, but the who are, all of the tradespeople, the plumbers and pipe fitters, sheet metal, carpenters unions, electricians, the various associated contractors, and then the home builders. So in total, there's 16,000 contractors across the state. So we have, a big pool of people that we have to sell. What is the approach? the approach is to really bring training modules to these trade groups and selling them on the training. And one of the ways is all of the journeymen are required to have to renew their certifications. And they all need to do this with continuing education credits. So offering free continuing education credits would bring some of them to the table. But overall, really, they're not going to change their approach unless there's a large federal regulation that comes down from the top. For example, the change in refrigerants, the move away from lead paint, some of those really big changes came from the feds, and the trade folks had to respond. They're probably not going to respond unless they're required to. And then in terms of, convincing a homeowner to go with the more expensive heat pump over a gas furnace, for example, nothing's going to happen without rebates. So rebates have to be part of the picture.
Okay.
So not the happiest and most joyful report, but kind of more of a realistic look.
Mm-hmm. And I think what I heard in there, as far as, thank you, you captured the who and the different parties, actors in this category for barriers, the continuing education and free credits. That is an action that would really help the tradespeople, the comfort and the risk aversion to something new. So I hear that action. If I may go ahead and highlight that as an action that for this low perceived contractor value. And then I think the rebates, and sort of tying back to the previous group, point of sale rebates or refundable rebates that the contractors can have some cash in hand as they are working with homeowners and landlords.
Absolutely. Good.
Thank you. Thank you, Anne. All right, let's move to the purple group. If I could ask the reporter there.
Yeah, it's me. Sort of building off of some of the stuff that Anne said, I think she identified the who very well. I think that there's some training that can be implemented to help contractors understand the new technologies that exist and sort of demystify them. I think we're seeing some of the older contractors being hesitant to push things like heat pumps because they're not aware that heat pumps have gotten far more efficient over the last decade. It seems like the younger contractors have a little better grasp on that, but sort of demystifying that and also educating the contractors on the incentives that are available so they can also talk to the consumer, sort of thinking residentially here, what's available to them, sort of interfacing them with MNERD, understanding the one-stop shop. So, and there are some trainings that I'm working on right now to specifically with the building trades around that. Also educating them on the contractor training grants that are available right now, because there is money out there that I'm not sure folks understand exist. Looking at more BPI certified training centers around New Mexico is a huge idea. And then
can I clarify, BPI, Building Performance Institute?
Yeah.
Okay.
And anyone else in my group, feel free to jump in on that. Also, just getting added to the approved contractor list. I've talked to several contractors that aren't really aware that that's a thing. So, in order to take advantage of the here and her incentives, there's going to be an approved contractor list and sort of educating them on that, I think is a huge huge thing that we could do.
Yeah, and if I can add to that,
Yeah.
we do have an implementer. Their name is Franklin Energy, and
Okay.
they will be the ones undertaking this effort to do the training and train contractors. So I don't know what that's gonna look like now, but hopefully we'll have some sort of idea in the next couple of weeks, and we can start with a small group of contractors. And again, this will be an ongoing effort through the life of the program as new younger people graduate from high school and enter the workforce, and maybe they want to do this and they would need to get trained. So yes, it is a requirement by the DOE that contractors need to be trained and certified to participate in these programs. They haven't really offered a whole lot of guidance on what the training looks like, but I imagine it would be like maybe a couple of hours effort and in a small quiz or something at the end.
Thank you, Yenny. So again, education and some of the training and access and understanding what's out there. Jim, I see your hand up, and just in the interest of time, we've got 2 more barriers here. So I do want to keep us moving. Go ahead, Jim.
Sure, I'll be real quick. I think one thing we need to recognize is, for example, my experience with getting an electric heat pump water heater installed is it took me a month because they had to special order the electric heat pump water heater, and most people aren't going to wait a month when their water heater goes out to get another one put in. Thank you.
Okay, so availability of the technologies. Thank you. All right, let's move on to misaligned policy. In the red group, reporter there.
Yes,
That was me. Oh, I'm sorry. No, yeah, apologies. I'm in the wrong group. Sorry, Mike.
No worries, Jim. Yeah, so we highlighted a couple here, a lot of ideas flowing in this group. The first one is around building codes and kind of getting them set up, getting the state set up to adopt new building codes as the IECC passes them, as opposed to kind of needing to fight every time there's a new code. And so that's, I think, something that CR Club and SWEEP are actively looking at. And then the other one we highlighted is a clean heat standard. And so that's, you know, the way to think about that is we have the Energy Transition Act, or the RPS, on the electric utility side. The clean heat standard is a greenhouse gas reduction standard for the gas utility side. So we have this in Colorado, we have it in Vermont, Massachusetts, and a few other states, where you have to hit a certain greenhouse gas reduction benchmark over time. And there's certain approved resources you can use to do that. Typically, the most cost-effective way to do that would be energy efficiency or beneficial electrification. And so it's one way, yeah, to incentivize more uptake of those projects. But a lot of other ideas came out of our discussion that I think I heard, sprinkled throughout the previous slides. So yeah, definitely recognizing a lot of misalignment in our policies, and it does lead to low perceived value across customers and contractors. So there's some overlap.
Thank you. All right, I'm going to move us on to the purple group for misaligned policy. Thank you, Michael. If I could ask the reporter from this group.
I think our reporter had to leave us. I can make an attempt at it.
Please.
Okay. We did talk about, as you could see, about the rate design, basically a lot of this in terms of rate design for beneficial electrification would be done at the PRC unless there's a mandate from the state legislature to require them to do specific rate design. Let me see, I'm just kind of reading this. And please chime in if I'm doing injustice here. Oh, we did have a discussion about the role of mortgage lenders in terms of how you calculate how someone qualifies for mortgage and how that can act potentially as a disincentive because the energy savings are not calculated in the calculation for how you qualify for a mortgage. I believe there was some difference of opinion on that. I'm sorry, that's really about all I've got on this. I'm hoping Anne can chime in. I can see she has her audio on.
We also talked about when you the question of there's no accounting for externalities. We were sort of thinking that really the severance tax fund is attempts to address those externalities, but most of the funding goes to education, not to environmental cleanup or to mitigation. So we thought that perhaps there could be some kind of a fund set up that helped bridge those gaps that we've identified in getting people to decarbonize their homes and buildings.
Okay, thank you, Anne and Jim both. So quite a few big ideas in here. We've got a clean heat standard from the first group. We've got automatic building code updates every 3 years on the cycle with the IECC. The rate design, a legislative requirement for beneficial electrification rate design. Some mortgage reporting. And then this severance fund to have a second piece to it, or second prong that would allow for environmental cleanup. I'm going to leave it there. That's a lot to consider and probably more actions than one roadmap can take on, but let's keep going in the interest of time. So our last group's infrastructure readiness.
And I unfortunately was the reporter here and I did not do a very good job. So I'm going to hope that the other folks in the group can chime in. But we've talked about various programs, including the SEED program and programs that MNERD has. There was a fair amount of discussion about the Solar for All grant and how that could help here. I brought up we need to focus on who actually does the work. So a lot of these grants and everything, that's great. You got the money, but then we got to do something with the money and assessments. So in other words, if you're going to figure out how to get electrification and solar and energy efficiency on homes, you need to kind of go to each home and figure out what they need to have done. So that's something that we discussed. The Justice 40 program was discussed. I brought up the PRC grid modernization and what kind of role they might have in here. Also mentioned was just the bigger role that building electrification, electric vehicles, and the transition to renewable energy is going to have our grid in general, and we need to prepare for a massive upgrade to the grid itself. Smaller rural electrics have some of their own unique requirements and needs and so forth here. And I'll leave it there, but I would encourage other people in my group in the remaining time we have to chime in.
Thank you, Jim. And as you pointed out, time is running short here, so I'm going to jump to the last, the purple. I had a really one idea that they just really felt was a strong need that they elaborated on. So if I could have the reporter from this group, please. I wonder if maybe we've lost that reporter. So it was a data collection, the need to set a baseline for homes based on the year of construction. So how many homes get deferred because of electrical issues and get a baseline of the problem that we're trying to solve. So they really blew that out into who might be a part of it and what kind of time frame they might look at. So setting that baseline, and then from the previous group, thinking through some of the supports of focusing on who might do the work and utilizing the grant money to the most effective means. So as we come to a conclusion here for our work, I'd like to open the floor here and ask for volunteers, folks who are willing to take this the next step. Now that we have quite a bit of background and some very specific actions, folks that would be willing to work offline with a small group and will help facilitate and structure the information to really blow out where these actions might go and what the roadmap might recommend. So again, you see the 5 categories. Are any folks that are interested and willing to volunteer to keep going on this effort between now and our next meeting?
Can I just make one quick suggestion? I feel like there's a lot of overlap between low awareness and interest, the low perceived customer and contractor value. So I'm because a lot of those actions were all about educational campaigns and or training. So I wonder if maybe one group either addresses all 3 of those, or we split it into 2.
Yeah, I think we're going to need to take a look. I agree with you, Alice. There's quite a bit on education and whether it's the home programs. And so I would kind of direct that towards the low awareness and interest, and we can kind of work that through offline. But for customer value and contractor value, I think we probably need to really look at cost, affordability, recognizing the benefit of the electrification to the pocketbook. So if that helps on the fly. Well, I'll leave it here. If folks are interested and are willing to contact us offline, maybe or by email, drop it in the chat if you want to tell us privately if you have an interest that you would like to pursue.
So Adam Harper said he'd be happy to volunteer. Adam, is there a particular topic that you're keenly interested in?
No, wherever I can help.
Great. Okay. Thank you. We will take you up on that.
Hi, Jim Desjardins here. I'd be interested in either infrastructure readiness or misaligned policy.
Thank you, Jim. How about, since you've already been volunteered on one of those slides, I saw you as the lobbyer, I'll put you on misaligned policy, and then we'll be back in touch as we work through the materials.
Right.
Thank you, Jim. All right, well, given the time, let me leave this here, and maybe we will reach out to some folks and see. I know there were several really strong conversations, robust conversations happening in different rooms. Margie and I can certainly take this back and write it, but I think it probably has a lot more depth and real personal touch if it comes from you all. So we'll circle back. So as we are up against the hour here, I want to just meeting wrap up that we heard from the New Mexico Rural Electric Cooperatives. Thank you, Carmen. We hosted the program showcase. Thank you to our 8 folks who walked us through the various programs. We identified top actions to overcome barriers, and we started the process to identify some volunteers. So we will come back to that. Thank you, Jim. We appreciate it. We may be contacting some of the others folks who are hanging in here with us. And then just to finish out, our survey, we are at midpoint with this work. And so it would be very helpful to us if you could give us some feedback on how and where we're headed, what's useful to you, what else you might like to see. So you can either take your phone and capture the QR code here, or Deb has just dropped into the chat the link. If I could ask you in our 3 remaining minutes, very quick survey, we recognize your time to go ahead and link through and answer a few questions for us to help guide the future work. And with that, I will say thank you to everybody else. Really appreciate the time and the great thinking that happened over the last 3 hours. And we'll go ahead and stay on here for a few minutes if there's any follow-up. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anne, is there a group that I could put you in?
I'm trying to decide. I don't know what's best. So why don't you guys just assign me one?
Okay.
I don't know where.
Which 2 barriers did you work on?
Well, I did the contractor barriers just because I'm interested in workforce, but I'm not a trades person. I don't have any real connection there, so I'm not sure that was a super great fit. Policy certainly, education awareness. I don't know. I'm open. You put me where you need me.
Okay, I appreciate the flexibility. Why don't I go ahead and put you in here for now, and let me see how the distribution works out, and we'll be in touch. Thank you.
Anne or Alice? I see Alice also volunteered.
Yes, Alice, are you still on?
Alice, I think she may have jumped off already, but put her wherever I think she's open.
Okay.
Okay, great. Thanks, Anne.
Okay, bye.
Thank you, Anne. And Alex, I see contractors. That would be excellent, Alex. Thank you.
Yeah, that'd be good.
And
And you see David in infrastructure. Yeah,
yep.
Excellent.
And why don't we put Alice here for now?
Okay.
Okay, Alex, thank you so much. I know you are also working on the electrification table. So we should maybe compare notes a little bit and see where we have any alignment and no need to duplicate efforts.
Yeah, sounds good. It sounds like a lot of the misaligned policy stuff overlaps with what we're talking about. So
okay, great.
All right, I'm heading out.
Thank you so
See you
much.
guys. Thank you.
Appreciate it.